Hey YouTube, what's going on? And welcome back to Cairo and his things. Today, we're going to be looking at a comparison between the Wurkkos TD01C versus the Brinyte PT16. You may be wondering with these two lights, why do a direct comparison between these two specifically? And as we get a little bit further into this video, I think that you'll see that these lights are direct competition with each other and have a lot more similarities than you may realize. So first what we'll do is we'll take a look at everything that is exactly the same between these two lights. And then we'll look at things that are both similar and compare them, and we'll look at things that are just completely different and compare them. We'll also take a look at outdoor beam shots in this video between the two. And by the end of this video, I'll make my recommendation on what I think is going to be the best suited light for you. So let's jump right into it. First off, I'll show you right away. Although I'm going to be mainly talking about the Wurkkos TD01C in this video, I only own the TD01. So the major difference between these two lights is simply the driver that's inside. In my Wurkkos TD01, I have a basic FET driver, but in the TD01C, it comes with an upgraded and improved buck driver, okay? And so really the major difference you're going to see there is although the TD01 is going to have a little bit of higher output right away at the first few minutes of the light, after that, as far as the sustainability, the buck driver is going to sustain a higher output for a longer amount of time until eventually it will take a sharp curve and then just pretty much shut down to a very low level. Whereas the TD01, it will start off a little bit higher for a few minutes, but then it's going to make a significant drop and it will stay much lower, but it'll keep that lower output for quite a while. So the buck driver is considered for the most part in the flashlight community as a significant upgrade, and it is more expensive for a flashlight company to put a buck driver in a flashlight. So usually you're going to see lights that are a little bit more expensive come with that buck driver, okay? So with that noted, let's take a look at what is exactly the same on these two lights. Well, the first major thing and a major thing that we're looking at in this comparison is that they are both marketed as tactical thrower flashlights. Regardless of what you may classify them as or how you may think that they appear, this is how Wurkkos markets this light. This is how Brinyte markets this light. They market these and display them as a tactical thrower flashlight intended to be a long distance flashlight that is good for self-defense and a number of other things for active duty, whatever. And so that's how they are marketing these two flashlights. So that is the first major thing that is exactly the same as how they're marketed and what they're listed as from their manufacturers. The next thing is that, as you can see based on the thickness of the tubes here, they're both carrying 21700 batteries, a single 21700. So these are bigger lights. They've got a bit more diameter to them than something like an 18650 light is usually going to have. But that also means that these are going to have better run times for the most part, okay? So both of these are running the exact same battery size and have a very, very similar battery tube size. The next thing is, if we turn the lights over here, you'll see on the back we have these flaps. Both of these are USB-C rechargeable, okay? Now, I will say on the Wurkkos TD01 and TD01C, this flap right here is pretty good. It takes a second to get it back into place, which is a little bit irritating. But other than that, once you get it on there good, I can't just rip it up. I pretty much have to use two fingers here and actually pry it up to get it up. So it's suctioned on there really well. On this Brinyte flap here though, see that? I mean, I don't put any effort at all. If I just graze this, it lifts up so easily. So that's one thing that kind of bothers me with this flap is that I don't like that, for example, if I were to take these both and be near a lot of water, I would feel more comfortable that this is going to stay suction better and keep the water out of the USB-C port than the Brinyte would, because this comes up so easily. So I wish they would have got that to stay suctioned a little bit better and been a little bit more, required a little bit more force to pull up. But otherwise though, as far as the things that are the exact same, they both do recharge on USB-C rechargeable ports in the back of the light. Now, since we're going to be comparing this PT16 with the TD01C, Both of these then will then have a buck driver. So they're both using an upgraded, improved, more expensive driver. Okay. Moving on, both of these are marketed and listed as 2000 lumen max outputs on turbo. So they're listed at the same outputs. So far we're looking at same battery size. We're looking at marketed in the same exact description. Both have the same drivers and both have the same max listed outputs. Now, as far as the emitters that they're each using, both of these are using an SFT40 emitter. So they're using the exact same emitter, the same thing that is going to project the light out there, exact same on both of these. Okay, so that's everything that is exactly the same. Now let's take a look at things that are a little bit different. Okay, so the first off, as we can see here, the head is quite a bit larger than the head on this Brinyte. Okay, so the head on this Wurkkos here, that is 2.32 inches in diameter, or 59 millimeters. Okay, across. Now on this Brinyte, we're only looking at 1.53 inch or 38 millimeters. So you're getting a significantly larger head, about 3/4 of an inch larger on the Wurkkos diameter. Okay. So with that said, though, with the larger head, we're getting 1,000 meters of listed throw on turbo out of the TD01C. For the Brinyte, we're getting 600 meters of listed throw on turbo. So you are getting almost double the range in the TD01C. Now, personally, I think past 600 meters, unless you're really looking for a dedicated spotlight, you're not going to notice it that much. Like, that 600 meters is a long ways, especially if it's really legitimately shining 600 meters away and it's not just like faintly reaching that. So I don't think to the naked eye there's that big of a difference. But regardless, as far as the actual performance that it's putting out, that TD01C is putting out a lot more range to it. Okay. Now on the bezels, they do have different designs on the bezels here a little bit. You'll see the way that the cutouts look. They're a little bit different. These are a little bit more rounded. These are a little bit more jagged. But I really like both bezels for the heads here. I think that they're both fitting. Neither of them are too much. They're not too big and aggressive, but they are enough to where, for one, they can both be listed as more of a tactical bezel. But two, I like that they have a little something there to protect it in against a drop on the head. Okay. So the major difference here, though, when we look at the head, I think it's pretty obvious. On this Brinyte, we're looking at a deep, smooth reflector in there, okay? But on this Wurkkos, we are looking at a TIR in there. Now, we'll see this in the outdoor beam shots, but if you're not already familiar, we should get significantly more spill on our light from the smooth reflector, and on the TIR, we're going to get less spill and more of a pencil beam directly out of the Wurkkos. Now, on the body of the lights, hopefully this picks up well on camera, but the Brinyte is pretty much completely glossy, whereas the Wurkkos is matte, basically all over, okay? And so, my personal opinion is on look and feel, that the Wurkkos looks and feels a bit more like a more expensive or quality light. Like the matte just kind of brings that out, I think, whereas the gloss, I don't know, it's something about the gloss looks a little bit cheaper to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with the glossy look. It's just the matte really looks more aesthetically pleasing to me. And while we're on that note, I will say, if you're somebody that's, you care, what people, you like to post pictures of your flashlight online or whatever, and you really care to have a flashlight that looks good. A lot of flashlight enthusiasts have picked up the TD01C, and even before that had this TD01, and we're posting it, and we're pleased at how it looks. It is a good looking light, to be honest. Like it looks like a really nice light. I even asked my 3-year-old daughter, because I was just curious what she'd say. I'd say, which light do you, because she really likes flashlight, I said, which one do you like the look of better? And she told me the Wurkkos. And I asked her why, and she said that she likes the bigger head, that she likes the way that the finish looks on this, which she was talking about. She likes the matte versus the gloss, and she didn't really understand. She just knew she liked it better. She liked the she even liked the button better on the Wurkkos, which I thought was kind of funny. But she just likes the Wurkkos look better. So I think just naturally, the Wurkkos TD01C is a more aesthetically pleasing light, if that's something that matters to you. Okay. Past that, if we look at these buttons here, something different here. So for one, both the buttons kind of share with the body here, in that the button on the Wurkkos is matte and the button on the Brinyte is gloss. But with this Wurkkos here, so not only does it protrude out a bit, as you can see past the ring, the button ring there, we've got a little bit of button sticking out, but if you can see that, there's wiggle in it, okay? It doesn't do anything, it doesn't do any harm, but when you press it down, you definitely feel that little bit of wiggle room that it has every time you press it. Like, it doesn't feel like this nice, like the actual click itself is responsive and pretty smooth, but the pressing down of the button, you feel that wiggle in there, okay? You feel that little bit of distance that it has, that it's able to move. Whereas on the Brinyte, it's kind of recessed into the ring here, and then when I press it, there's not really any wiggle room. Like, if I use my nail, I get a little bit, but with my finger, I don't feel any wiggle at all. It's just that nice responsive click. I personally like the button better as far as the way it feels on this Brinyte, just because there's no wiggle. I know that's not something that matters to everybody, but I just don't like the way that feels, having that movement there. But both have good responsive clicks, which is obviously important, okay? Past that, though, as far as the knurling on these lights, this really comes down to preference and whichever is more important to you. But you'll see on the Brinyte and the Wurkkos, they have similar designs in the way that the knurling looks on the tube. But on the Brinyte, it's significantly smaller and less abrasive, okay? This feels smooth to the touch. It doesn't feel aggressive on my fingers at all. But with that in mind, it definitely feels like, even though there's something there to gain traction for my fingers, if I really had slippery hands or whatever, it does not feel like that's enough to hold my fingers in place. With the Wurkkos, this has very big, bold knurling. It does feel a bit more aggressive. It's not pointy or pokey. It doesn't hurt, nothing like that. But you can feel how aggressive it is on your finger. And I feel like my fingers really catch on this. Like, even if you've got slippery hands, that's going to be great to hold your hand in place, to hold your fingers in place. So it comes down to preference, whatever, if you like that bold, more abrasive knurling, or if you like something a bit less but still is there. It just comes down to preference. But that's something that's also different on these lights. Now, something that's kind of obvious is that the Brinyte does have a grip ring, whereas the Wurkkos doesn't. So the knurling helps hold your hand in place, but that's all you've got there. Whereas the Brinyte, I think it doesn't matter as much on the knurling because you've got this grip ring. So your hand is going to stay in place however you like to hold it, whether it be, in between your fingers there, or if you like to put your whole hand in that way, whatever. But it's going to hold your hand nice and locked in place. Now, keep in mind that these are marketed as tactical throwers, right? So we do need to look at these in an aspect. If we're going to compare these two, because they're marketed in the same way, are they both doing a good job of being tactical throwers? Because if we just wanted a pure dedicated thrower and that's all we need, and we just want to get the most throw out of a light and we don't care about features, just get yourself a Convoy L21B, something like that. But if you want the tactical features on it, that's where you're looking at something like one of these two lights, right? So with that in mind, what you're going to want is a tactical user interface. And so you'll see here on the Brinyte, we not only have our side switch, but we have two buttons on the back. When I press that side switch, it does absolutely nothing, okay? at least if you click it, you know, just once or a couple times, it does nothing but flashes that light at you to let you know that it goes into automatic lockout mode. If I press it 3 times, that's how I can unlock it, and then I can use the regular light, which you'll see my battery's kind of lower there because I'm not on green now. And that's where I can switch through, you know, your low, medium, high, turbo, back to low, hold it down to turn it off. So if you just want to use the basic features of the light, you can turn it off lockout mode and switch through there. But because this is listed as a tactical thrower, I want a tactical user interface on this as well. And that's what they give us. They give us 2 separate options. If you're not needing to use straight into tactical mode, you can just use that side switch. But if you want that, we have on this large button here, we have direct to turbo. And on this smaller button right here, we have direct to strobe, which you have to hold it down for. Now, a lot of people aren't big fans of direct to strobe, but I will say, if you're somewhere where there's a lot of wild animals, I noticed on Wurkkos YouTube channel, which I'm hoping I'm saying his name right, but and if you haven't checked him out, look that up. Weerapat, I believe. But he has some awesome videos. But one thing that he deals with, it's like every time he goes for like a run or whatever, he's got wild dogs coming after him, it seems like. So that direct to strobe is actually pretty important for him. If you're in an area, especially if you're not in a first world country and you're watching this, and you have a lot of wild animals out around, I think it's really nice to have that direct to strobe. But having a direct to turbo and direct to strobe is something that this offers, but you don't have to use it. You can just use the side switch if you want. Now on the Wurkkos, again, press the side switch, it does absolutely nothing. Even if you know you do the lockout, it does nothing. That doesn't work the same way in this light. This is completely where you have to operate the on and off through the tail switch. Okay, so once I then turn it on, then I can switch through my modes. Now there is a tactical user interface setting, so you can change the settings on your flashlight to go into a tactical mode where you do go directly into a mode that takes you through strobe and other things. But you have to do that ahead of time if you want to be in a tactical mode. Whereas this has that at all times by just separating the buttons, okay? By separating the functions of the buttons. This, on the other hand, these 2 buttons work, you know, completely together, but also separate in how you have to go one and then the other. And then back off, right? So, personally, I think the user interface on this Brinyte is wonderful. I'm glad that they have multiple user interface options on the TD01C where you can do a tactical mode, where you can do the regular mode, which is what I'm in right now. But I really, really like the user interface on the Brinyte, and I think it fits what they're trying to market it as a little bit better. Now, going back to these buttons that we just looked at, something I do want to note for you guys. So, one thing that I really, with rubber buttons, rubber mechanical switches, is I don't like when there's empty space in the buttons, and you kind of get like that sag, and you just feel like a little bit of poke in the middle is what you, protruding through is what you press the button on with. So, with this Wurkkos, you do have a little bit of that. So, I can press it down from the sides, and there is some empty space, okay, and I do feel it protruding in the middle. I still get a good responsive click out of it, but you'll see even there how the way that it deflates the light. Now, something that is good is even when I press the side, it turns the light on. So even if I'm in a situation where I really need to get this on in a hurry, if I get it from the very corner of the button, it's still going to turn on. So that's most important. But just as far as the way it feels and what I like, how we have like that deflation right there and we just have some empty space in there, I don't really like the way that feels on my finger as much, right? And I know that this is nitpicking, but it's just another comparison. Whereas with this, I don't really get any deflation. It feels full pretty much all the way around. Like it feels like a good solid full button. That's a really good button on there. It's not quite as good as the other Brinyte that I own, which is the, I think it's the PT28. That button is phenomenal. Like it's like perfect pretty much. But this button's really, really good, and I like the way, and this button the same way, but I like the way that this feels when pressing it better than the Wurkkos. Alright. Now, another thing I'll note is that, yeah, this has a basic lanyard on here. This lanyard, if you happen to notice this, does not come with the Brinyte. It comes with just a real basic lanyard. This lanyard, I want to say came with the Wubin X3, I think. But the reason I put this on here is because this is a jacket pocket size light anyways. I'm not carrying this in my jeans pocket. So I didn't mind putting a little bit of a bigger lanyard on. And this has USB-C recharging in the lanyard, and it also has a roller, measurements on the other side of the lanyard. So I thought that's really something that's pretty cool to have on me at all times when I have this light, so I threw it on there. But just so you know, in case you really like the lanyard, it does not come with the Brinyte. So some other things that I'll simply note is that on the size of these lights, yeah, neither of them are going to be something that you're probably regularly going to carry in your pants pocket unless you have, larger pants or you're wearing cargo pants, something like that. These are more jacket pocket size carries. And so I don't think it's as big of a deal that the head's a bit bigger on this, because I think that they're still relative and comparable, even with the larger head on the Wurkkos, because they're both going to be used pretty much in the same applications, okay? For me personally, with this Brinyte, this is something that I'll either put in my jacket pocket, I'll take in a car ride with me. If I know that for work I'm going to be going out of state, this is the light that I want to take with me. It's kind of a do-all light for me. So it's one of those things where, as far as the size, I think that they're still both very, very comparable here, even with the larger head on the Wurkkos. Now, I think what we really need to do is just get into some outdoor beam shots now. Let's take a look at them. Let's compare the beam shots, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here I'm going to have the Wurkkos in my left hand and the Brinyte in my right hand. And as I shine this at the hill that's right here in front of me, you'll see with that TIR right there, pretty much no spill whatsoever. Now, here's the Brinyte, and it's got a significant amount of spill, and when I lift the beam up here, you can see the sharp cutoffs of the spill. Whereas with the Wurkkos, the only thing you're getting is a little bit of reflection of light underneath it on the grass, but really no spill whatsoever. It's much closer to an LEP. Okay, and here, I'm going to shine both of these lights, Wurkkos in my left hand, Brinyte in my right hand, once again. So we've got the Wurkkos here, and I'm about to pull out the Brinyte here in just a moment. And there's a tree line back there that I'm actually shining this at. That is 673 meters away. And both the Wurkkos and the Brinyte, in person, I could see the trees being lit up from 673 meters away. So here's the Brinyte, and you see that sharp cutoff of the spill once again. You're getting significantly more spill if that's important to you. But when I shine it down at the tree line, you'll see I'm actually lighting up those trees. And that is 673 meters away. So the Brinyte actually goes a little bit further than what it claims to do, at least as far as what I'm getting out of it. Now here, I'm shining these over a lake, okay? And that lake is just a little bit further. The school that's on the other side of the lake is a little bit further than what that tree line was away. And so the Wurkkos, I could see lighting up the school on my left side. On the right side, my Brinyte, I could see that it was lighting it up. Not quite as bright, though. So it definitely does cut off somewhere a little after the 600 meters, but both of these put out very good performance. All right, so you've had a chance now to see what each of these lights can do for actual performance outdoors. I think it's fair to say that the Wurkkos does put out a little bit of better performance for having this larger head and having a TIR, but I really, really love the performance out of the Brinyte. Being able to get the performance that it does and be comparable with the Wurkkos with a smaller head, I love it. I really pretty much love everything about this Brinyte. For me, the Wurkkos is like a 8 out of 10, whereas the Brinyte for me is like a 9.5 out of 10. There's a couple things I would fix on the Brinyte, but that's about it. Everybody has their own preferences, but for me, the Brinyte pretty much hits all my preferences. But as far as you, for the viewer, here would be my recommendation if you're going to be choosing between these two lights. It's going to come down to, for one, are you okay with a larger head or do you need a smaller head? Because that's the major difference here, is the diameter of the heads. Now, this isn't so big that it can't fit in your jacket pocket. It absolutely can. And potentially you could even fit this in a pants pocket depending on what kind of pants you're wearing. But outside of that, as far as the actual what these lights are made to do, being tactical throwers, as far as the performance they put out outside of the throw distance, which is obviously a bit more with this Wurkkos, if that isn't as big of a deal to you, because it still throws plenty far and probably more than you'll ever need, if that doesn't matter, really performance-wise, these things are pretty much right on par with each other. You're going to have very, very similar run times, battery life, just total output, and just overall experience with these lights is so similar, in my opinion, of what you're going to get, where it comes down to what would you rather have, as far as would you rather have a TIR with pretty much no spill? Would you rather have the smooth reflector with more spill? And then how do you feel about the head sizes? Other than that, I really, really think these are so similar. You could go either way and be happy. But me, for my preferences, I really, really like the grip ring. I like the user interface and having the 2-button layout on the back better. There's certain things that I like having this light indicator at all times so I can find my light in the dark. Like, there's just little things about the Brinyte where it's a go-to flashlight for me. It's not like an everyday carry or anything, but it is absolutely a go-to flashlight in any type of situation where I'd want a tactical flashlight with me. I'm taking the Brinyte. But I still think the Wurkkos fits the bill, and I think that this can still fit for some people. So let me get into the prices here. As far as Amazon, Brinyte, we're looking at $80 on Amazon. I think it's 79 something, okay? United States dollar. Now for Wurkkos, the TD01C with the improved driver has not hit Amazon yet. So as far as the regular TD01 that we have here with the original fat driver, that runs $60 on Amazon, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's even a 30% coupon going on right now. So that brings it down to maybe like $40-something for the Wurkkos TD01. That's really, really cheap, although it does have the original driver, but that's really, really cheap. But I would expect once the TD01C comes to Amazon, it's probably going to be pushing around $70. So I'd say you're probably going to be looking at about $10 more expensive on the PT16 over the TD01C. So again, it really just comes down to preference. But if you want to order directly from Wurkkos, you'll probably have longer wait times. If you're in the United States, you're going to have to wait weeks up to maybe a month to get your light. What I found is when I do order a light from China, you pretty much are better off just not trying to track the shipping and kind of forgetting about it and getting excited when it does show up, because the shipping can be an absolute mess to try to track. Outside of that, though, if you're fine with that, you can get these lights cheaper if you order direct from Wurkkos and deal with the longer and kind of weird shipping that happens. So you could get the TD01C actually for, I want to say maybe like $45. I'll link it in the description, but I think off the top of my head it's on sale for like $45 for the TD01C, which is the improved driver, on their website directly. So if you're fine with that, I mean, you're talking a $35 difference in price difference. That's a really good price for the TD01C. So yes, I absolutely do recommend both. For me personally, the PT16 is my go-to choice. It really comes down to your preferences though. But for the majority, for most people, I think the PT16 is being slept on. A lot of people aren't aware because Brinyte is not marketed nearly as much as some of these other brands. But I think that if people would get their hands on this, they would absolutely love it. And a lot of people would probably realize, like I did, wow, Brinyte is making some great stuff. Okay, but either way, I think you're going to be happy. But definitely keep in mind the head size difference. Some people like the larger head, some people like a smaller head. Okay, but if you don't want to fit that larger head in your pocket, go with this. If you want a little bit extra throw and you like having the larger head, go with this, right? But either way, I think you have two great choices here, and I hope this was able to kind of break down for you how these lights are so similar and some things that are a little bit different, and I hope the beamshots helped resolve this issue a little bit better to decide which light is better for you. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.